G'day there guys, it's your main man Markee, back at it again with some r/legal advice. Now if you like today's content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and enjoy today's episode. Thank you. Posted by user Lebecky11. Titled, Getting Charged $2,500 Because of a Google Review. I got a message from my former rental management company, the place I was renting from, saying that there was a negative review posted and it was clearly us. I looked up the review. This is the legal portion of our lease that was sent in the message. Both parties agree that all disputes and complaints shall be resolved privately and confidentially between tenant and landlord, or individually through the courts or collections, and further agrees to refrain from making defamatory statements orally or in writing about any other party and the representatives, partners, or agents of the parties. Both parties agree that it would be impractical and extremely difficult to ascertain the amount of actual damages caused by a failure to comply with the provision, and liquidated damages of $2,500 shall be payable upon demand. So they charged us $2,500. They said if we took down the review, they would take the charge off. The review is not posted under any of our names and has no factors that indicate it's from us. Is this legal? Our lease ended last month with this company. Yenzid7 says, generally, that sort of clause is not enforceable, though they may try anyway. Attempting to enforce can get them in some trouble, particularly if OP's state has an anti-slap law. I don't know if your state has one, but the one I'm in does fee shifting, so lawyers love it. What does SLAP stand for? Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation, i.e., a lawsuit intended to silence you. Did you lie in the review? If not, then it's not defamation and they have no legal claim against you. That being said, it doesn't mean they won't try to scare you or even try and file suit, even if there's a high chance of them losing against you for that review. The review is just pictures of parts of the lease that hide hidden fees in the lease and tell people to watch out for them. It also says the manager is unprofessional. Defamation generally requires a false factual statement, so make extra sure your review doesn't have any and you're in the clear. Updating your review with a copy of their threat and the part of the lease they are referencing would also be okay. Keep in mind, though, that doesn't mean you won't have to expend time and resources to defend yourself if they press the matter. This is illegal. It violates the Consumer Review Fairness Act, CRFA, that Congress passed in 2016 specifically for this purpose, and you should report it to the Federal Trade Commission here. You should also report it to your state's Attorney General if you're in one of the 29 states with anti-slap laws. Did you post the review after the end date on your contract? If so, then you are likely in the clear anyhow. Just as a general rule, it's always good to frame potentially defamatory statements as opinion rather than fact to avoid risk. Update. So my old landlord threatened and told me that he was charging me $2,500 for a negative review. Due to my post here, I told him about the Consumer Review Fairness Act. He hasn't mentioned it again, but now he actually charged me for recarpeting the entire duplex. Let me rewind. I moved out and cleaned the place top to bottom and recorded an hour's worth of videos of me running my fingers over every crevice to show there wasn't even dust left behind after my intense cleaning. When I moved in, I had a move-in documentation that said that the place smells bad, like pets, and I wouldn't be held responsible for the odor when I left because I moved in with pets. The landlord acknowledged the carpet smell and said it was from past tenants. He emailed me after move-out and said thank you for leaving the place move-in ready and gave me the carpet cleaning bill, which I anticipated because it was in the lease. Now, because I thwarted his attempt at trying to remove the negative review, he came back and said the carpet is completely ruined and the house smells like pets and I have to replace the entire house's carpet. I'm taking him to court over this because he charged me for the whole process and didn't show a bill either. Just said that it was going to cost an estimated amount of money and charged that. My question, While I'm in court, can I mention that I feel like this is because of all this drama, what I wrote about this review, or because the lease has the $2,500 legal claim clause that is illegal? Can I say the whole lease is invalid? Edit, I live in Utah. Hemoglobin Blue says, where do you live? Many states allow for double and treble damages for wrongful withholding from a security deposit. Also, carpets have a limited life and he can only charge you for the depreciated value. E.g., carpets have 7 years of life, and previous tenants removed 4 years from that, either from normal use or excessive animals. If you lived there 3 years, you owe nothing. If you lived there 1 year and added so much damage that they had to be replaced, then maybe you owe the 2 years, which is roughly 2/7. What your state considers the life of a carpet might be different. Numbers are made up for the sake of examples. I don't really want to argue them. Do you know where I can find what my state allows? I am in Utah. I don't know the specifics about the depreciation, so that will help a lot when arguing my case. I'm a landlord in Utah, and the law does allow for treble damages, but it's at the discretion of the judge, so you won't necessarily be getting it. Utah law tends to be landlord-friendly, but it sounds like it's well documented, which will help you out a lot. Good luck. Edit, now that I've read some more of your concerns, landlords have 30 calendar days to return your deposits and/or provide you details of amounts withheld. Those amounts can't be for work, they have to be done themselves. They will need evidence of the expenses if you take them to court. I've been doing property management for 20 years in Utah and have dealt with tenants in courts, but I am not a lawyer. Utah definitely has treble damages. Check out renters' rights. You may have to file in small claims court to get it back though. Here's more info. Stinker Bell says, you can bring up that he tried to charge you this exact same amount for a negative review, but you have excellent evidence that this charge is not valid in your videos, and correspondence with him from when you moved in and when you moved out. The attempt to charge you for a negative review is like a cherry on top of your "I didn't do this damage" argument. Your location is relevant here because different states have different requirements of landlords, and sometimes even damages for improperly withheld security deposits, as well as different requirements for where to file suit. You will likely want to file in small claims court. Your landlord may seek to settle as soon as you file. Make sure he doesn't owe you any penalties for the late return of your deposit before you settle. Our next post is by user GTA Tramp, titled, Landlord wants my roommate and I to leave every time there is a showing of the apartment we rent. Indiana. My roommate works from home and has had to use vacation time to leave because our landlord texted us and told us that it says on the lease that we have to leave every time there is a showing. It is in the lease, but is this legal? We gave landlord our schedules so we could try to be accommodating and they could schedule a showing when we are able to leave. But they keep scheduling during the set work hours. Now down in the comments, Tater Biscuit says, it would require a bit of research into Indiana law, but I'm not certain that a lease provision for this is enforceable. It is your home and you have the right to be there. You also have some non-zero duty to cooperate with showings to prospective tenants or buyers. Here's a document from Indiana state government implying this. It says you have the right to access to your property at all times, and it gives a limited list of exceptions. That implies, but again, may not be definitive, that the landlord can't boot you for showings. The problem is that this document doesn't cite a source within the state code. You'd think that the government agencies would go that extra step. And OP says, consulted lawyer, and they told me that according to the 3 codes, 32, 31, 5, 6, and 1, this part of the contract is void. So I guess now I have to figure out how to tell my landlord without starting a whole thing. Thanks everyone for the help. Not a lawyer, but for this, perhaps start with a positive? Dear landlord, we are happy to accommodate you, wherever possible, for showings at X time of the day. However, we will not be able to vacate at other times. As specified in these 3 codes, tenants cannot be required to vacate the premises for showings. The short answer is no. It's called an unconscionable term in the contract for lease. Unless it's written into your lease, your landlord cannot force you to leave your apartment for a showing. You have to let them show it if they give you reasonable notice, but they can't force you to leave. Not a lawyer, but from my understanding, a contract cannot supersede law. Showing a property is not listed as a valid reason for denying a tenant access. Seems like this clause would be unenforceable, especially given the fact that tenants have already made a good faith effort to comply. So, while the tenant would be required to allow the owner to show the property with notice, the owner is required to allow the tenant access to the property during showings. Update. So it's been a while since a lot of this went down, but I keep experiencing issues and there's not much that can be done besides leaving, of course. But from where I left off, after consulting with a lawyer, the lawyer sent a strongly worded email to my landlord about how it is illegal to make us leave when she schedules showings, and that we will try our best to leave, but it will be completely voluntary. Landlord sent back an email saying that they are very imperative about tenants leaving, and that's why it's in the lease. Sent photos of my apartment that she took while at a showing, saying that it's a mess and we need to clean up. Before I moved in, it was a frat house, had cigarette butts and liquor bottles and trash all over. But I still cleaned up some clutter anyways. My landlord frequently had showings, sometimes 3 in one day, asking us to leave for a couple hours at a time. She even showed up 40 minutes to one, and I was changing in the living room when they had walked in. She showed up 10 minutes early the second time. I was in the bathroom with the door wide open and walked out to strangers in my hallway. I had even planned to leave for some of these showings, but didn't even get the chance because of how early she showed up. It was honestly such creepy behavior. She wouldn't knock because she claimed we should be gone anyways, and then blamed us for the reason why no one wanted to sign a lease for the place. I think maybe it's because the people coming to the showings were seeing how she invaded our privacy, to be honest. I consistently felt very uncomfortable in my own home. I documented every interaction with her and had a lawyer send another email about how it's against her own rules. Longer story, to show up early. She is breaking the law, etc. She sent another email sounding angry, blaming my roommate and I on her not being able to sign a lease, blames us for a weed smoke smell. Not us, but our upstairs neighbors. But she then backed off a little. Had more showings, and she showed up on time, but still didn't announce herself or knock. Fine, whatever, at least I could prepare. Then finally, people signed the lease and we didn't have to deal with it anymore. But recently, I walked out to my living room while being home alone to the maintenance man. Didn't even know he was there, and he had been there for hours. That was creepy. I can't wait for this to be over. Posted by user Xtine Hartley. Titled, Harris County, Texas. Someone forged my father's name on the warranty deed to his home, transferred the ownership of property to their name, then sold the property to another family. As the title says, my 73-year-old father's house was stolen by a con man who either stole the physical original deed from my father or used the information provided by online public records search to create his own warranty deed. The con man then forged my father's signature on the grantor line. It is obviously a forge, as I have a sample of my dad's actual signature from his driver's license, and it looks completely different. Then, after having the deed notarized, filed it as public record. He then turned around and sold the home to another family and apparently pocketed the profits. Due to his failing health, my dad had been staying with my brother across town from his house at the time that this was going on. I live in Colorado, not Texas, so I only found out because my brother, who does still reside in Texas, went by the house one day and saw the family living there. He stopped to ask what they were doing, and they informed him that they had purchased the home for $45,000 off Facebook Marketplace. Alarmed, my brother started looking for the original deed to the house, but could not locate it. So he went to the county clerk's office and obtained copies of the chain of ownership of the property. Sure enough, we could see that someone forged my dad's name to gain ownership to the property on 8/2019 and then sold it to a second party 9/2019. Another interesting thing about this pertains to the notary public. Someone told me that if there was an issue with the notary, it might invalidate the whole transaction. So I searched for the notary on the TX Secretary of State website in hopes of filing a complaint. I searched by both full name and notary ID, and cannot seem to find the notary. Is forgery of notary stamps a common thing? I am going to call the notary public unit of TX tomorrow to see if I can confirm that this notary is or isn't a real person. I know enough to know that I will definitely need to speak to a real estate lawyer, but I'm wondering if, considering my dad's signature on the deed is forged and the notary public does not seem to exist, does it seem as though I may have a good case here? Would I have a chance of getting the house back? Is something like this going to cost a ton of money? I have some money, but not a whole lot. My dad has owned his house for 30 years, and I cannot simply let it go. Please help. Mighty Metric Batman says yes, a real estate lawyer is going to be required. Yes, the attorney will be able to get the house back. No, it will not be cheap or quick. There is a specific type of suit that needs to be filed in this situation. Don't expect to get that money back. Deed fraud is massively on the rise in the last few years because grifters and scammers found out that nearly no county clerk is actually verifying anything when registering title changes. From WFAA.com, quote, WFAA has found that when property records are filed with the county clerk, no one checks to see if it's legitimate. Dallas County Clerk John Warren told WFAA that, with limited staff, it is impossible to check the veracity of each filed and notarized deed document. He says, "There's no way for us to determine if it's a clean deed or a dirty deed," Warren said. If his clerks assumed that responsibility, Warren said, he would have to employ a lot more clerks. Otherwise, the clerk's office would come to a near standstill. For now, the system relies mainly on notaries verifying identities, but as WFAA found, there are gaping holes in that process. To perpetrate a fraud, all a scam artist needs to do is find a willing notary, be a notary themselves, or create a fake notary, WFAA found. So yes, it is entirely possible no notary of that name exists. This is big boy lawyer territory. There are both civil and criminal moving parts to this situation. A lawyer in Texas should be hired immediately, and a police report should be filed. The real estate attorney will be able to help with that. It is possible that the dad will get the house back, but lots of people here are going to end up coming out the other end with a little less money than they started. Not a lawyer. And a report made to the local adult protective services. They usually work closely with police. I work as an APS investigator, not Texas, and we get many cases similar to this, though we often know or suspect who forged the deed. Darth Kale says, I'm a real estate attorney, not in Texas. I can only speak in general terms, but get an attorney right away in Texas. Check if your dad has title insurance. It will be in closing docs, and usually they will cover all costs. I can say in most states, a forged deed is void on its face. The people in the house will not be able to keep the home, but you will probably have to go to the court over it. Hopefully the people who bought the house got owner's title insurance from the title company or attorney that closed it. The title insurance will reimburse them their money they paid for it, and then will try to go after the con artist criminally and civilly. Source, 15 years real estate practice. Update. Like so many others, my financial situation is not as such that I could easily hire a real estate lawyer, although this is the #1 best advice given for this situation. When I originally posed this question in July 2020, my father was in a nursing home. As of yesterday, my father is now deceased. My question is, since he is dead but did not have a will, would that automatically exclude me from legally getting the house back? I am expecting to have the money to hire a lawyer soon, but don't want to waste anyone's time. Killer Tulip says, you'll have to probate the estate with an attorney. Explain this and they will be able to help or refer you. The costs should come from the estate before it's passed down to you, so it's not like cash will come directly out of your pocket right away. Ultimately, you should be able to get the house back, or the estate should, and the people that would be out the money will be the family that bought it. However, they might even be able to recover their money if there was title insurance on the transaction. Then the title insurance company would likely have to pay them back. That puts the title insurance company in the position of chasing down the con man and trying to recover the money. The point is, never buy property without title insurance. The small amount of money you save by skipping it is not worth it. They bought the house for $45,000 on Facebook Marketplace. I would be surprised if they even had any proper paperwork done. Not only that, but any title company would have seen through this in an instant, and you wouldn't even get near closing. I.e., yes, get insurance, but also know that in the process of getting insurance, these sorts of things get uncovered by the insurance companies doing their due diligence. Your father's death does not affect the claim, except where he obviously cannot now testify that he did not sell the house. Given the apparently forged notary stamp, this should not prove to be an insurmountable obstacle. How much it will cost depends on how much fight the buyers, or their title insurance if they bought it, put up. Yes, title insurance could make remuneration for your father's estate more likely. It makes things cleaner for you, allows the new homeowners to possibly stay in their home, which may be a consideration for you and may not, and puts a company who really wants their money back on the heels of the fraudulent seller. You'll need to get the police involved, and you need a real estate lawyer, preferably one with litigation experience. The homeowner's specific policy will have some bearing on this, not a lawyer. Alright, I think that's where I'm going to end today's video, guys. I do hope you enjoyed it. As always, I want to do a huge shout out to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. You should be up on the screen now. I love you all, and I think every single one of you are amazing for supporting the channel in the way that you do. Again, thank you so much for supporting me. And again, if you did enjoy today's video, please do tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below. All of your hot takes, opinions, whatever you think, really, whatever's going on in your life right now, I'd love to hear down in the comments below. Before I leave, I'd also like to announce that I'm going to start doing meme content again on the second channel. I know it's been a while, so click on the Markee head on the screen without the Australian flag behind him if you want to go see some memes. And as always, guys, have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.